I'm Gene Bailey. You're watching FlashPoint. Glad to have you with us. We got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight, and I got a good group on this panel to do just that. Some sad news as we lead off tonight. This just happening out of Edwards Air Force Base. Watch.
Take you out to California, Edwards Air Force Base in Kern County, California. That base has put out the following alert, and it reads like this. A United States Air Force B-52 Stratofortress, that's a huge plane, crashed shortly after takeoff on the Edwards Airfield, 11:20 a.m. We assume that to be Pacific time, which would have been just about an hour ago. The statement continues, emergency crews immediately responded to the scene. Situation's ongoing. More information will be provided as it becomes available. So you can see there that charred runway, that tarmac in Kern County, California.
We bring in Mark Meckler, Rick Green. Good evening, gentlemen. Glad you're here. Sad news out of Edwards Air Force Base. I mean, the Stratofortress, you don't really get an idea how big that plane really is. It is massive. You know, sad to see. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, you know, I can't remember hearing of something like this in my lifetime, a Stratofortress actually just crashing like that. It's really horrifying. Obviously, our hearts go out to the families, prayers for those lost. But there's something that we should put in context here, which is to understand that when our military engages, even in training, the things that they do are dangerous. And when they sign up, they know that they're putting their lives on the line. You'll get in a big, complex aircraft like that. Every time you do, there is risk involved. We have training deaths every single year in our military. It's just part of having the size of a military force that we do that these things are going to happen. I don't mean to minimize the tragedy at all. Every life lost is real tragedy, not just to the family, but to the nation. But this is part of having a defensive force in place that is strong, powerful, and prepared.
That's right. And my understanding is on that base particularly, they do push the limits to see what works, what doesn't. Rick, your thoughts? We mourn the loss of this 8 gentlemen.
Yeah, in fact, Gene, we had some folks from Kern County at the FlashPoint event at our campus this weekend, and you know, I just want to echo what Mark said. It's one of the reasons while I definitely appreciate it when we say someone is a quote combat veteran. I never like to diminish or in any way give second class to all of those who serve in the military who don't necessarily go directly into combat for exactly what Mark just said. It's not only that some of them that don't go into combat are also doing dangerous missions and dangerous training all the time. Man, these folks give the best years of their life, some would say. If you're, you know, your late teens and your 20s, and you go and you set that aside to serve our country, even the investment of your life at that time for those years is a significant sacrifice. So let alone the fact that, you know, we do have training accidents every year, and you're talking about an awful lot of people that are in the military at any time. And so, yeah, I mean, this is, I do pray that we've, you know, really shunned the whole Vietnam stain on our nation's history, where we treated our men and women so horribly when they came home, and that it's a different time. And so that even in a situation like this, it just raises our awareness of why we go up to anyone in uniform every chance we get and just say thank you for your service, whether it's combat or not, whether you were in a training missions or not. You have served our country. You've served my family. You've made it possible for us to be on this show tonight and enjoy our freedom. So it's a big reminder of that tonight.
So true. So true. All right, let's move along. Let me introduce a new guest tonight, John Guandolo, former U.S. Marine FBI Special Agent. He's a nationally recognized expert, counterterrorism, national security. He later developed the FBI's first training program focused on the Muslim Brotherhood and global jihadist movements, and received multiple awards for his service and investigative excellence. And that's just the beginning. John, welcome to FlashPoint. Glad I finally worked it out that we were able to get our schedules so you could be here.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here and participate.
All right, also with us tonight, Brigitte Gabriel, Act for America. Brigitte, great to have you here as well.
Thank you. Delighted to be back with you.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the news clip. What's on everybody's mind. The deal has been reached and will be signed Friday. Here's the clip.
After more than 100 days in a state of war, a deal has been reached between the United States and Iran. President Trump taking to Truth Social overnight saying, quote, "This great deal will bring peace and security to the whole region. Many presidents have tried to make peace with Iran and all have failed before me. The leaders of the region have, for the first time, found a president who can help them achieve real peace." With the opening of the strait upon the signing of the deal on Friday, for purposes of mine removal, oil will flow on both ends again for the region and the world. A signing ceremony is set to take place on Friday in Geneva, Switzerland. Before the deal was signed, it was nearly derailed. The Israelis targeted Hezbollah with strikes in the Lebanese capital of Beirut. Iranian officials immediately vowed to respond with missile fire toward Israel. A diplomat with knowledge of the situation told Fox News that Qatari mediators stayed in Tehran conducting intensive negotiations coordinated with the United States. Vice President Vance described to Fox News what those final moments were like before the agreement was reached. Could you take us behind the scenes of what that moment was like leading up to this deal actually being signed?
After the Israelis struck Beirut, we were very worried, and we saw a lot of evidence that the Iranians were going to launch a large number of missiles at the Israelis. With our communication with them over the course of getting to this signed peace deal, they assured us that they were not going to respond to the Israelis, and they were going to sign this agreement and get to peace. Now, of course, you always have to verify these things, Trey, and we know that there are a lot of people in the Middle East who do not want to make this deal happen.
I spoke with President Trump before the deal was reached, and he was optimistic about what this agreement means for the region. The president also got directly involved to ensure that the Iranians didn't launch missiles at Israel and derail the deal.
All right, we're going to break this deal down, because I know, like many of you, that we're seeing all over the internet, people saying they're glad, they're thrilled, gas prices are coming down. And then there's another train of thought here that this really isn't over. I'm going to go around the room. You're going to hear some interesting takes on this, and it's stuff you need to listen to. Rick, I'll let you go first. The deal, is it, let's say everything goes through, and, do we celebrate this, but where do we go from here?
Temporary celebration, I think is fine. I mean, look, I think the deal could be almost anything, and you would see oil prices go down. There'd be some relief in the market. There'd be some relief among Republicans that, hey, we're going to have a better shot at the midterms. I think there are definitely those who want a deal at any cost. I don't think that includes President Trump. I think he wants it to be a good enough deal. He would say a great deal before it's going to be done. But I think any kind of deal would have helped with the markets and caused people to have a lot of relief. I see any deal with this regime as just a temporary deal. These people are never going to keep their word. This is not going to last, but I am thankful that we would have a temporary deal, because I think a pause is good for our side. It is good for us to be able to get to the midterms without being in the middle of it, and potentially, we may have to go right back in come January or maybe even early as November. But for now, I think it's good. Now, I don't know a lot of the details of the deal. All I know is the guarantee of no nuclear program and the straits open. And that's, of course, what we've said on FlashPoint night after night after night. Those are the two things. If he can get those two things, he can declare victory, and we can all feel good about it, at least for a little while.
Mark, is this just a move to kind of bolster? I know I'm going negative here, but is this a boot just to kind of help with the midterms? Does Trump really think it's going to happen? And let's just kind of help that.
I don't even know what it is, to be honest with you, Gene. And this is one of the things that actually bothers me about it. They claim there's a memorandum of understanding. The interesting thing about written agreements and memorandums of understanding is they involve pages with words on them, and words have meaning. And we haven't seen any of those words.
Right.
And if you listen to the news out of the White House and what J.D. Vance is saying, it's a great deal. It's the best deal. It's an incredible deal. It's an amazing deal. It does absolutely everything that we want. And if you listen to the news out of Iran, America has completely surrendered, capitulated. They can do whatever they want. The Israelis are being forced to move out of Lebanon, and they got absolutely everything they want, and we surrendered. Meanwhile, none of us has actually seen the deal, so I have no idea what it is. Very difficult to comment on it, but I'm very skeptical when the administration tells us they have a deal, but they won't show us the deal.
All right, Brigitte, I saw your post on this weekend on Sunday, and I thought there's the right response. Why don't you tell the people at home again what you think about this deal?
Well, isn't it amazing how everybody on our side thinks or knows that this deal is temporary? Because we know the Iranians, they lie, they're never going to abide by any deal. Zebras don't change their stripe. This is their modus of operandi. They lie, they promise, they try to buy time. They are geniuses at deceiving and buying time. And the video that you saw that I put out actually on Friday, before we even knew there was going to be a signing of a deal, this is when President Trump was talking about, we're going to go in, we're going to hit you, we're going to destroy you. You haven't seen anything yet. The bombing tonight is going to be bigger than what happened before. So we went from that to signing the deal. So I put a video out to President Trump asking him, have you heard about Al-Hudaybiyah, which is a strategy of war, a treaty, a deal that the Muhammad signed, and it was used as a strategy of war ever since the days of Muhammad. Muhammad used to attack the Meccan caravans. This is where they got this strategy of war. And one day he was camping out near a location called Al-Hudaybiyah. So he attacked the Meccan caravans. Well, he knew he was not going to win that fight. So he agreed to sign a 10-year treaty with them. It became known as the Treaty of Al-Hudaybiyah. And it said, I'm not going to attack you. I'm not going to attack your caravan. We're going to have peace. We're going to stay neutral for 10 years. The Meccans thought, great, we're not going to have any war. You know, this is going to be wonderful. We're negotiating with Muhammad and his team. Muhammad used that treaty for 2 years before he broke it to build his military, rest his people, rejuvenate his people, arm his people, and then attacked Mecca 2 years later when the Meccans least expected it. Mecca fell within 24 hours because of the surprise element. And the same strategy was used by Yasser Arafat in modern days, by Yasser Arafat in the Oslo Accord in 1993, when Yasser Arafat signed the Oslo Accord with Israel. And people in the Arabic world, the journalists in the Arabic world would ask him, how could you sign a peace treaty with the devil itself, Israel? And Yasser Arafat will tell them in English, remember Al-Hudaybiyah, تذكروا Al-Hudaybiyah. Everybody in the Islamic street, in the Arabic street, knew exactly what Yasser Arafat was doing. He was deceiving his enemy to build himself to be able to fight them. While in Israel, all the Jews were singing Shalom Achshav in Tel Aviv, celebrating, we finally have peace with the Palestinians. It was completely over their head. Yasser Arafat saying one thing in English and saying something else in Arabic. And Yasser Arafat used the Oslo Accord. For 8 years, he got Israel to bring him back to the Palestinian territories, establish the Palestinian Authority, arm his police, train his police, and then 8 years later, in 2000, the second Intifada was launched, suicide bombing everywhere, Jewish blood is being spilled on the streets of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. The Iranians are doing the exact same thing. They're lying. Their signature on paper doesn't mean a thing. It doesn't matter what they sign on Friday. They are buying time.
See you guys tomorrow night. No. Well, I'll go ahead and finish up.
That's right.
That's why we love you, Brigitte. Okay, John, I saved you for last because I wanted your take on that. I mean, is it like what Brigitte's saying? Is this a repeat of El Habadiyah? I mean, is that exactly the same thing?
Yeah.
It sure seems like it.
It is, and I'd like to put a finer point. She summed it up very well, but this brings us to the very root of the problem, is that our leaders, including this administration, and for the last 30 years, have no clue what drives these countries, yet certainly through a number of official documents served to the United Nations, not the least of which is the Cairo Declaration on Human Rights in Islam, where the entire Muslim world, every Muslim nation on earth has said and served to the UN, we only understand human rights through Sharia. It's our only source of reference. Meaning if you're non-Muslim, you should convert or be killed. If you're Christian, Jew, or Zoroastrian, you convert or you submit to Islamic law and pay the non-Muslim poll tax, or you're killed. If you leave Islam, you're killed. If you commit adultery, you're killed. You're homosexual, you're killed. I mean, people are killed for a lot of reasons. That's normative mainstream Sharia. And in my experience, including with this administration, they don't get it. They think we can finagle this. And they think, well, yeah, of course the Iranians lied, but we're gonna do X, Y, and Z to get to this outcome. But it's not just Iran. It's Saudi Arabia, it's Turkey, it's Qatar, it's UAE, it's Egypt. Of course, it's Iran. It's the whole lot of them. And they all have one stated purpose that they have spoken about, they've written about, and they've served documents about. It says the purpose of Islam is to wage war in order to impose Allah's law, Sharia, on earth, period. And that's why they teach it to 7-year-old Muslim children in Islamic schools in Dallas and Wichita and Phoenix and Los Angeles and Miami and Boston and Paris and Toronto. And all we have quote unquote Islamic advisors who have advised our 3- and 4-star generals and our presidents and national security advisors and the National Security Council who tell us exactly the opposite about Islam that 7-, 8-, 9-year-old Muslim children are taught about Islam in U.S. Islamic schools. And the question I always ask is, how can that be? How is it that what our leaders understand about Islam from their, quote, Islamic advisors is exactly opposite of what Muslims teach their children in Islamic schools in the United States and elsewhere? And that's to the root of it, because they're lying to us,
right,
and they're teaching their children, because it's all about Sharia. Hudaybiyah is not merely they're following that. They're following the example of Muhammad, which is obligatory, and for them to say anything Muhammad did was incorrect or in somehow wrong is a capital crime in Islam.
All right, so let me ask you this, John. You know, the Israelis, Netanyahu, I mean, if we know about it, he knows about it. They're not dumb. They're not like just accepting it.
Well, you've got a problem here. You've got a lot of Israelis that do believe. And in the last 24 years of doing this overseas, including in Israel, hearing Israeli leaders, military and civilian, say things like, well, you know, the vast majority of Muslims aren't like that. I'm like, well, that's just factually not true. And we have Pew polling that the most populous Muslim nations on earth, the 10 most populous, you know, 70 to 99% of the people say they want Sharia to guide every part of their lives. We have Al-Qaeda says it, the Muslim Brotherhood says it, it's in the Egyptian constitution, it's in the Iranian constitution. But I will tell you, I think it's criminal negligence on the part of government officials, and we can talk about the whole rest of the world, but I think right now we need to focus on the United States. And in my experience, leaders in the United States, from the Clinton administration to this one, they don't know. And that's why they invite people like Mr. Trump did to his inauguration, the last inauguration. You invite a Hezbollah guy.
Yeah.
And you got to ask, well, how'd that guy get invited? And who got fired because of it? Nobody. How'd you change your vetting? They didn't. I mean, the level of criminal negligence is so gross. And yet we're treating these things like they're no big deal. And the enemy is steamrolling us on a day-to-day basis. That's why they're taking over places like Frisco, Texas, and you know, Wichita, Kansas. And nobody's doing anything about it.
All right, well, let's get back to the deal itself. Here's J.D. Vance, his comments on the deal. Watch.
Yeah, Gail, as you know, sometimes with these agreements, there are some diplomatic protocols, some technical things to work out, but we plan to release the full text this week. We want the American people to see it, but we've also seen, of course, some misreporting about what's actually in the agreement. We've seen some accurate reporting about what's in the agreement. I think the most important thing for the American people to appreciate is that what this agreement does is really twofold. On the one hand, it ensures that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, while simultaneously opening the Strait of Hormuz. You already see oil prices from a high of $126 a barrel down to about $80 a barrel today. That's a lot of progress. But it also, Gail, fundamentally extends a hand to Iran and says, look, if you guys are willing to honor your obligations, if you're willing to allow real inspections of your nuclear program, then we will welcome you back into the world economy. I think what the President of the United States wants to do is turn over a leaf of 47 years of a failed relationship between the United States and Iran, but that requires the Iranians to actually honor their end of the bargain. So when people say that billions of dollars of assets will be released, that's not true. What is true is that Iran will have a much better and much more prosperous future if they meet the obligations they make in this agreement. We'll, of course, see. That's one of the things we're going to work out in the technical talks that will follow the official signing on Friday.
All right, Mark, I'm still it's really sad when you listen to our leadership, and I'm like going, yeah, but that ain't going to work. That's not going to work. I mean, since when have we ever had a nuclear program that we're going to inspect and it worked? I mean, they know you're coming. You have to give them a warning. I mean, it's like telling your teenager, I'm going to come check your room, and I'm going to come up in 4 hours from now. And, of course, he's going to put the stuff away or clean it up or whatever. I mean, Mark, this is, I think the American people watching right now across the country are going, come on, we know that's not going to work. And now the Iranians are saying that nuclear dust is under so much rubble, we can't even get to it. You'll have to get to it.
Yeah, look, and I think it's even worse than your analogy. It's more like your teenager says, hey, here's the deal. I got stuff in my room, and you can't come look at it. The Iranians today actually said that if the Israelis don't pull out of all of Lebanon by tomorrow, then the deal is off. Well, the deal's off because Israel's not pulling out of Lebanon. They're not going to pull out of Lebanon. They're going to continue to defend themselves against Hezbollah, and they're going to defenestrate Hezbollah, I hope. That's what they need to do. That's what the Israeli people need them to do. That's what we would do if terrorists were lobbing bombs into our country. So the Iranians have already said today the deal's off if Israel doesn't do what they want. And Israel, I can assure you, is not going to do what they want.
Okay, Rick, help it make sense. Do you have things in your room?
Yeah, I thought you were telling stories about me from high school, man.
Yeah.
Thanks. Look, it's interesting because I actually brought this up last week, the similarities to President Reagan's pressure on Israel 40 years ago with a very, very similar situation, also dealing with Lebanon and Beirut and forcing Israel to not finish the job there and get things done in order to get a peace deal. And, I have to say this every time, I'm a big Reagan guy, got a kid named Reagan, another one with his birthday, dog named Dutch, all that good stuff. But Reagan was wrong on that. He went the wrong route. And unfortunately, I warned last week, it looked like President Trump may do that same mistake with regard to the overall situation. So I'll just say it again. I think it is very much playing a game to get through the midterms, to get the economy better for a few months. I don't see President Trump as any kind of a fool. I do think he knows exactly what these people are about. I think he's going to get all that he can in the moment and come back and get more later. That's the way I see it. Now, I am curious, though, whether or not the American people's scrutiny on this kind of deal, if our awareness has been raised, if that makes sense. Like, Gene, we've been talking about everything John's talking about here way more so in the last 6 months to a year, right? So you've had guys like John and Brigitte warning about this, Frank Gaffney and others, for decades. And most of our people have been asleep at the wheel and haven't paid attention. But they are waking up. I mean, Exhibit A would be the Attorney General race in Texas over the last, couple of months, that runoff between Mays Middleton and Chip Roy. They were literally trying to out anti-Sharia each other. So that tells me that they know, they're reading what the people now want. And so I'm just wondering if we're turning a corner on this so that, the frustration you can hear in John's voice where he's been trying to warn these people, even on the Republican side, about this, if it'll get better, if it's gotten any better. And if we're waking up, are those in power enough waking up? Certainly those candidates this spring, it seemed to me, had awakened big time to this issue. Anyway, sorry for the long answer, but I think that we need to recognize we do have an inflection point here where we could turn the tide on this issue, and that may actually spell problems for the Trump administration because they know we're not gonna say it's a good deal when we know it's not a good deal.
Okay, but I agree with you. I believe we've made some headway. But it never seems to fail. Once I think we made headway, I see something stupid like what happened as we were driving down to the event there at Constitution City, and Terry gets a phone call. They'd ask her to speak at a Republican thing, and they ask her to not speak about Muslims because we have some good Muslims in there. And so we said, bye-bye. You know, we're not doing any of that. I mean, this is, I'm like, are you guys crazy? Are you not paying attention? But you know what? It all boils down to, I know what President Trump should have done. He should have listened to Obama.
Former President Obama casting doubt on how it's different from his own deal.
It is doubtful that any agreement that arises is going to be significantly different or a significant improvement from the deal that we had in the first place and had worked for a long stretch of time before the United States pulled out of it.
Let's bring in Fox News contributor Mark Thiessen. Mark, I would say this to the former president's point. The difference is that the president dismantled their military in full. Of course, you got some missiles still left, and it takes away the uranium that is there. So I would say that's the key difference, right?
Well, first of all, it's the exact same deal except for 14,000 military strikes that buried their entire nuclear program under rubble so deep that the Iranians have told us that they actually can't get to it. If we want the nuclear dust, we're going to have to come in and get it. Destroyed 82% of their defense industrial base, sunk their entire navy, grounded their entire air force, and also, by the way, the Ayatollah Khamenei, Qasem Soleimani, and like the top two tiers of their leadership are dead. But other than that, it's exactly like the Obama nuclear deal.
Yeah, exactly like that. Brigitte, come on. I know you've got a comment to that.
It's very different than the Obama nuclear deal. Remember, Obama said, you cannot enrich any more uranium. You're going to promise you're not going to enrich any more uranium, and we're going to send our inspectors. They still had, in 2015, all the infrastructure, all the machinery, all the industry to basically enrich uranium. And also the Obama deal had the sunset clause in it, which means basically by this month, they could have started enriching uranium. So that was a pause under Obama. What President Trump did is he went in and obliterated the infrastructure. They don't have an infrastructure to start. They don't even have a starting point right now to enrich uranium. And to top it off, it is buried so deep in the bowel of the earth under stone that there are only 2 countries in the world that can retrieve the enriched uranium right now, the United States and China. That's it. We are the only 2 countries in the world that have the capability to go in and get it. It is very different. And again, of course, to add to Mark Thiessen, we destroyed their military, the Air Force, the Navy. All their ships are underground. We literally had them on the brink of death. And this deal is bringing them to life. And here's what I mean bringing them to life. War is perception. War is 50% perception. And right now, the world is perceiving the Iranian and the IRGC as the winners. The IRGC survived bombardment by Israel and the United States, and they are still standing with their media in front of their own people, celebrating their victory. To the Islamic street, that is victory. It is defeat for the United States. And that's where the optics become very important, because in the Middle East, optics are everything. In the Islamic world, optics are everything. This is why they emphasize honor. It doesn't matter what country you're talking to, no matter whether they speak the Arabic language or not. Honor is such a tenet of the culture of Islam. You know, you cannot dishonor their culture or something. You cannot dishonor them. And right now, they feel very honored. They feel very proud. And America is dishonored. And that is not a good look on the world stage, regardless of what's in the deal, what's going to be the outcome. President Trump could be brilliant, genius. He and Bibi Netanyahu could have had a plan that, okay, we're going to buy time for 60 days. This is only a memorandum of understanding. It's not an official contract or peace deal with Iran. We're going to negotiate. We're going to figure out things down the road. And maybe they're buying time until after the midterm election. They want to make sure they stabilize the world oil market. They want to make sure President Trump, contains people, makes them happy in the United States leading up to the midterm, to ensure the Republicans win the midterm, because this is a very important issue, the war with Iran. Even if they're doing all that and they are the geniuses, the way it looks on the world stage, America lost, Iran won. Very simple.
Well, and to Mark's point, it could all be moot tomorrow morning when the Israelis aren't out. All right, we're going to take a break. We come back. We're going to talk about Islam's deception. Yeah, we're going to keep talking about it on the other side of the break. We'll see you there.
What if everything you've been told isn't the full story? In Islam's Deception, the truth about Sharia, John D. Guandolo pulls back the curtain on the laws, strategy, and ideology shaping the nation and challenging everything you thought you knew. From a former FBI counterterrorism agent, this is a wake-up call you can't afford to ignore. Get informed, get equipped. Order Islam's Deception now at fparmy.com.
Hey Texas, join the FlashPoint Army on Friday, July 24th at 7 p.m. for a one-night event at New Beginnings Church in Bedford, Texas. Join Gene Bailey and his guests, Larry Huck, Lorenzo Sewell, Hank Kuhneman, Miles Rutherford, John Amonchukwu, Rick Green, and Andrew and Nolene Cedra. Go to fparmy.com/events to register for this free one-night event. Across America, believers are coming together to pray, to stand for truth, and to make a difference. The FlashPoint flag is a symbol of that shared mission and a reminder that together we can continue to impact our families, our communities, and our nation. Display it proudly and let it inspire hope for the future. Get yours today at 888-427-9057 or online at fparmy.com.
All right, we are back. I do want to tell you, we're going to dive into his book, Islam's Deception, The Truth About Sharia, which we've already kind of been diving into. I want to talk about that a little bit more, but you can get your copy. Listen, we have very limited amount. So I suggest if there's something you want, it's $20, 888-427-9057, or go to the website right there, fparmy.com. All right, Brigitte, before you go, what is it that you're looking to see happen in the next 2 or 3 days?
Well, we're going to know more details. J.D. Vance said that we're going to know more details within the next 24 hours about the deal. They will release it, I think, because of the pressure from the American public. I want to see America leave Israel alone and let Israel and Lebanon deal with Hezbollah. For the first time, we are seeing the Lebanese government and the Israeli government come together in agreement, which it does not align with what America is doing with President Trump. So I would like to see more transparency with the American public about what's really in the deal, and I hope the president will not move forward in signing something that will jeopardize the country way after he's left office, whether in 2 years or another Republican administration after him for 4 years.
Well said. Brigitte, thank you for being on actforamerica.org. I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, John, let's talk about the fact that, and I got like 25 minutes, so I'm going to have to give me short answers here as we go. What is the biggest deception? You've been doing this for a while. You've been training people on this. In fact, I went to a training with you. You said things I'd never heard before. What's the biggest deception that the American people have bought into with Islam?
Well, it's that Islam is something that it isn't. Is that what Islamic leaders say publicly and what they've convinced our leaders to regurgitate on TV and social media about Islam is exactly opposite of what, again, 9- and 10-year-old Muslim children are taught in U.S. Islamic schools about Islam. And the question is, who's being lied to? And the answer is obvious. And again, the point to be made is it is all about Sharia. And the fact that the United States has been at war, I would argue for, over 40 years, but certainly in combat operations since September 11th, 2001, and our generals and our senators and our national security staffs, our national security advisors and presidents have decided the very thing that the Islamic world says they are fighting for, to impose Sharia on earth, we don't need to look at. We're just going to listen to our Islamic advisors, our Muslim advisors, to tell us. And that's why we lost in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, parts of Africa, and why we're getting our asses handed to us right here in the United States. And why the Islamic world, as Brigitte just said, believes that they're victorious in this peace deal. Because the fact that the United States is even coming to the table demonstrates to the Islamic world that we are surrendering. Whether that's the intent of the administration or not, everything they do and the way they view it is through the lens of Sharia.
Let me show you. This is the, you referred to earlier. We've got the graphic up. Christians are the world's largest religious group. Here it is. As of 2020, 2.3 billion Christians. Muslims were at 2 billion. But the next graphic is the one that's so telling. Muslims were the fastest growing religious group between 2010 and 2020. And you see the bottom of the chart there, Christians down 1.8, Muslims grew 1.8. I mean, this is, you know, when you see this, Rick, we're not going in the right direction.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we've got all kinds of challenges within our own tribe, right? We're losing kids, you know, right and left. 80%. Some say some of the polling shows once they go off to college and they have their beliefs challenged, and it's because we haven't taught these things. I mean, John's pointing out why the Islamists are so firm in their faith is because they're teaching their faith from the beginning as kids, and they're teaching their jihad to these kids, even at a young age. We don't even teach our kids, you know, how to defend their faith. You know, you'd think it'd be a lot easier to defend a philosophy that says treat your neighbor the way you want to be treated instead of kill your neighbor if they don't agree with you. Yet, you know, we've been such a sugary, you know, wimpy church for so long that we haven't done that. So, of course, the kids are going to walk away as soon as their faith is challenged. That's why I'm so thankful for Frank Turek and all these others that have stepped up in the last few years to start teaching apologetics. Why Chris Dunham is such an important part of our team at Patriot Academy, teaching apologetics so that this doesn't happen, so we don't lose the people from our own tribe, let alone evangelism and us being brave enough to go out and street preach and do everything else that we should be doing to speak truth. Just defending the faith and training our own people to defend the faith is something that we really dropped the ball on.
Let me show you this clip from Marco Rubio. He talks about why Islam hates America. Watch.
Ultimately, all radical Islamic movements in the world identify the West writ large, but the United States in particular, as the greatest evil on the earth. And every chance they have, the notion that somehow radical Islam would be comfortable with simply controlling some province in Iraq or Syria is just not borne out by history. Radical Islam has shown that their desire is not simply to occupy one part of the world and be happy with their own little caliphate. They want to expand. It's revolutionary in its nature. It seeks to expand and control more territories and more people. And radical Islam has designs openly on the West, on the United States, on Europe. We've seen that progress there as well. And they are prepared to conduct acts of terrorism. In the case of Iran, nation-state actions, assassinations, murders, you name it, whatever it takes for them to gain their influence and ultimately their domination of different cultures and societies. That's a clear and imminent threat to the world and to the broader West, but especially to the United States, who they identify as the chief source of evil on the planet. Okay, the reason why they hate the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the leadership of the UAE, of Bahrain, is because they've allowed the United States to partner with them. That's why they hate them. They consider them infidels for it. They hate Israel. But they also hate America. And they hate anywhere in the world that we have influence. They seek to attack it, including here in the homeland. If you look at the domestic terrorists, at the attacks that have happened here domestically, the overwhelming majority of them have been inspired by radical Islamic viewpoints.
Now, Mark, I think Marco Rubio does a great job there. It gives me a little bit of hope that some people in this administration do know what's going on. And let me say this about President Trump. Of course, he wouldn't play all of his cards. He's not going to let us know everything all at once. I am banking on that. But when we see this, this really does need to be a wake-up call. But you know, I thought in these elections, some of these down-ballot elections, I really am going to get to you, Mark. With these down-ballot elections, I would have thought people here in Texas would have woken up, whatever the right word is. But yet they haven't. Or is it just that we've seen such a swing toward the Muslim population? And in our and our wanting to be, oh, we're Christian, we love everybody, which is a lie that they've bought into, that we've just handed the keys to the kingdom over.
I think this is an incredibly difficult issue for those of us in the West, and especially for Christians, because when you have a Christian heart, our goal is just literally to love everybody. But there are people who hate us. And while I agree with Marco Rubio, I frankly don't think that he goes far enough, because he keeps using the phrase radical Islam. If you study Islam, and John's the expert on this, I assume he'll confirm this. I've spent some time in Islam. The reality is Islam is incompatible with Western civilization. It's not, there's no distinction between Islam and radical Islam. For those who follow the Prophet Muhammad, it is mandatory to conquer the entire world on behalf of Allah. And that just is what it is. So when we try to make this, I think, incorrect distinction between radical Islam and Islam, that's a problem for the West. I've said this many times on the show, Gene. We have become too tolerant of intolerance in America, and we're going to have to become a lot more intolerant of that.
Rick, your thoughts here? Get you to weigh in.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's, it's part of what we spent the weekend training the FlashPoint Army on here at Constitution City in our leadership congress. We spent some time on the First Amendment, on the definition of religion, talking about this long-term battle that we have ahead of us to once again teach the American people that liberty does not mean the liberty to do anything and everything that you want. There are things that subvert the public good, and there are religions that subvert the public good, or as the Supreme Court has said, subverts the public order. And we've got to get a better handle on that. We've got to teach that. We've got to be willing to again fill the vacuum. But I do want to say from kind of the 30,000 feet view, again, no different than the fact that we didn't teach our children to defend the faith, and so many of them walked away. That opened the door for Islam and other religions to grow. In the same way, we lost our patriotism because we didn't teach American history. We didn't talk about our heroes, and so it caused people not love their country and defend their country, which opened the doors for this one world kind of mindset that Joe Biden had for 4 years to open the floodgates. Again, I do sense a turning, though, not only in terms of our awareness of the threat of Islam. I mean, guys, just look at what happened last night. I mean, this was red, white, and blue nirvana on the White House lawn. And when Justin Gagey had that incredible underdog 6-1 win in that final fight, what did he say when he first got the microphone with Joe Rogan? He said, I was an underdog, yes, but he said 250 years ago, America was more than a 6-1 underdog, and we won. And he talked about being proud to be an American and how much he loved our military and all those things. I just think there's a patriotism comeback that's going to help in this, in what we're talking about with Islam. We have to first be proud to be Americans and know why we're waving that flag. So Gagey's got the flag around him. He's been a fantastic American throughout this whole thing. The whole night for him started standing in front of the Declaration of Independence in the Oval Office. So when they first did the walkout with him, he's standing under the words, Gene. He's reading the words about who we are as Americans. So he's not just waving the flag. He knows why that flag is worthy of being waved. So I bring all that up to say, I think there's something shifting, man. We have such an amazing opportunity right now to teach people what we're about, and we have to do that in order to actually fight against Islam. Otherwise, the vacuum and the moral relativism of all values are the same, all religions are the same, that's what destroys us. We have to know what we're for before we can fight well against what we're against, and we're kind of having to do both at once, which is why FlashPoint Army is so important, because we're teaching people how to do that.
So true, so true. In fact, you know what, guys, let's play that Ilhan Omar clip, because there's something in there I want to talk about. Play Elon.
Thank you so much. And Palestinians do exist. They are real people. They are ethnic to the land in which they belong. And Israel is the one that is taking their land, not the Palestinians. Thank you so much.
Okay, Mark, this is why teaching history is very important. Geopolitics is very important. Do you think she really believes that? Do you really think she really believes that Israel took the land from the Palestinians?
Yeah, I do actually think she really believes that. That's what she's raised in that ideology. She's brainwashed in that ideology. And also, and I mean this with the important level of indifference and disgust for Ilhan Omar, she's an evil person. She's not a good person, and she has bought into a completely evil ideology in which she's been indoctrinated her entire life. She's not that bright. And so, yeah, I think she actually believes that.
Okay, John, as we go forward, what should we be looking for in our, we've got, free talk. Let me play this from Frisco, Texas. The police department goes to the Islamic Center. Watch.
وأكون للخير العميم مثالا أسمو وأجتاز السماء.
This is what community looks like.
Now, at the very end of that clip, he goes, "This is what community looks like." Okay, John, there's fresh bait in the water. Go for it.
Well, I'd just say it would be nice if the Frisco police actually investigated that terrorist mosque, jihadi mosque, instead of going glad-handing with them. That would be nice. And this is the problem. I have a lot of, I work with a lot of police. I just spoke with and trained some last week, and I've been trying to do that in Texas. But a lot of police come up and they're like, "Hey, we went to this place or that place that you're saying is a jihadi mosque, but we're just doing our jobs." And my response to them is always the same. I'm like, you know what? That's what the gate guards at Auschwitz said. And you swear an oath to the Constitution, which has a moral standard attached to it. It's a legally binding oath, and you're required to know all enemies or do a due diligence search to know all enemies. And if you willingly do something to aid and abet enemies of the United States, you're culpable for that. And the idea that, well, my boss told me to do it. Well, good police officers around the country, and I know quite a few, have told their bosses to pound sand. I'm not going to the mosque, and I'm not doing the glad handing. And sometimes they lose their jobs, but that's what obedience and fidelity to the oath of office looks like. I honestly believe these officers should be investigated by DPS. This is a Muslim Brotherhood operation. The governor of Texas has declared the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization, and here's a police department there aiding and abetting them. I mean, we got to stop, tiptoeing around this. And we have to start holding people like this, these police officers and their leadership. I would love to see the governor launch and publicly announce, we've launched an investigation on the leadership of the Frisco Police Department and on the mayors of places like Frisco and Plano, who are aiding and abetting known senior leaders of Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States, like Yasser Qadi in Plano and others.
All right, well, let me show you this graphic, his picture. The Frisco Police Department, the Islamic Center posted this. Community breakfast with Frisco PD. The Islamic Center of Frisco honored to host a community breakfast and then welcome members of the Frisco, blah, 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 blah. Meaningful. We sincerely thank all again. So, this is not to pick on Frisco, but this is to show you this is what you have, Frisco. Now, we know Rod Vilhauer lost an election for mayoral race. The guy that won, Mark Hill, was embracing all the mosque and going to the Hindu temples, all of these things. So I'm not saying we don't be any less human, but I'm saying we have to be aware of what the battle is that we're fighting. And Islam itself will tell you the battle they're fighting. It's either Islam or death. Let's watch.
It's going to be Sharia law everywhere?
100%. This is my goal and every Muslim's goal.
And you think
establish Sharia law on earth.
Okay, but when there is Sharia law on earth, then somebody like me should be killed? Because I am a murtad.
It's up to the Amir.
But it's under Islamic law, it says that I should be killed. So you think that's okay?
In the Sharia law, that's what I follow.
But do you think that's fair? For me, like, let's say you're right, I'm wrong. Do you think it's fair to kill me because I got the conclusions right or wrong?
If Sharia law states that, then it should be fair for me. There's always a safe haven for you under Sharia law.
No, because you said Sharia law on everywhere on earth, so there's not going to be any safe haven for me. If Islam dominates all of earth.
That's the plan, and you
that's
either
the plan.
have
So where would be my safe haven?
In Islam.
But that would be by force then, wouldn't it? If my only safe haven is by Islam, and if I don't go back to Islam, punishment is death.
So there's two choices, Islam or death.
There you go, Mark. Islam or death. I mean, we're not trying to be dramatic here. That's what they're saying.
Well, and I think the most important thing about that clip is that that guy's not some quote-unquote radical Islamist. And this is the problem I have with the Marco Rubio clip. He's talking about radical Islam, and you don't picture a guy in a baseball cap just talking casually on the street how, hey, look, you're going to die if you're not going to convert to Islam. It's just how it is. Your safe haven is to become Muslim, and that's it. That's just not what people picture when you say radical Islam. It's not radical Islam. This is Islam at its core. This is what it is. This is the fundamental ideology. This is what all Muslims believe if they are Muslim. If they don't believe this, then they're not actually practicing Muslims.
No, they're not. All right, John, real quick, tell me, what am I going to get if I get this Islam's Deception book? What do you talk about in here?
Sharia. I mean, it's all about Sharia. I can't say it enough. It's just all about Sharia. And what do they teach their children? What they teach, first of all, let me say to your audience, it's a capital crime in Islam for Muslims to teach other Muslims anything about Islam that's not actually true Islam Sharia. And it's obligatory for Muslims to lie to non-Muslims if it advances Islam. 100% of authoritatively published Sharia states that. So what you're going to get in this very easy-to-read book is what Sharia is, how it's applied, and what are the key things Americans all need to know. And what everyone says when they've read this book is, it's like going into a movie theater, a 3D movie, and sitting there trying to understand what's going on, and then someone hands you the glasses, and you put them on, and you realize, holy cow, this is much worse than I imagined, but now I get it. That all of these facades of friendliness from the Muslim leadership are lies. They're exactly that. They're facades. And we have the leadership of the U.S. Islamic community literally doing everything they're doing to impose Sharia. That's the purpose. And I think if you just get those couple things and you understand that they mean it, it's the stated purpose of Islam.
Yeah.
The only purpose is to wage war against non-Muslims to establish Sharia on earth. That's it. That's why they teach it to 6-year-olds, 10-year-olds, and at the highest levels of Islamic jurisprudence on the planet. And it's why Muslims know it. And just because and they say it, just because we're not telling you about it, just because we're not out there in the media saying it, doesn't mean we don't all believe it. They say that.
Sure.
We should start.
That's right.
We should start actually listening, and more importantly, our leaders should know it and base their decisions when they engage leaders of the Muslim world. But right now, again, if we don't understand, here's why. The last point I'll make: to defeat this enemy, you have to know Sharia, because within Sharia is their defeat mechanism. Anytime, as the vice president said, I wrote it down, we extend a hand to Iran, they view that as surrender.
Right.
Because they have no understanding of that in Islam, because Muhammad would have never done that. He never did it, and he's the perfect example. When you have the upper hand, you crush the enemy. And we should be crushing Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Iran and Turkey, not shaking their hands and telling the world they're awesome and we love them and we're going to do business deals and we're going to let them come into the United States and have joint operations at our military bases and give them a place to stay. It's insane what we're doing. We are inviting our own destruction.
Well, we're not going to let that happen, are we? I know those of you watching, we're going to have to stand up. This is why we started years ago with Rick Green and getting you trained in biblical civics. You have to understand that before you can get involved further. And that's also why we rolled out in April FP Army chapters. And this is what we're doing. We're rolling that out so that you have a way to do it. Rick, the first thing they do is they get involved and they take the training on biblical citizenship. And I know some people are going, I don't, you're going to make me take some kind of training. But the reality is, and I would probably be one of those people, I'm like, I don't want to take a training, just tell me. But the reality is, you really have to kind of go back to understand. If we don't go back everything's going to be off that we learn later on. Speak to that.
That's right. Yeah, you know, and if I stick with the metaphor of FlashPoint Army, if you're going to be an effective intellectual warrior, if you're going to be an effective intellectual soldier out there in your community, you got to know from where you get your ideas and what the value system is. And so the boot camp, if you will, for a FlashPoint Army member and a FlashPoint Army chapter is going through that biblical citizenship class and learning from Charlie Kirk and Bob McEwen and David Barton and Tim Barton and Mark Meckler and all these other people that teach in that class. And by the end of that 8 weeks or those 8 videos, you'll be through your boot camp. And then we'll start sending you to some spec ops training where you get to pick the mission that you really want to work on, and we'll connect you with people, and you'll be able to be connected with the right organizations, the right people to move out in action. But it doesn't take long, and it's actually very entertaining. It's not your typical boring constitutional class, but it goes back to what we said earlier. We have to know what we believe before we can go out there and stand on what we believe and defeat those who are trying to radically transform what America is all about. We are civically ignorant as a nation right now, and it's why we've allowed for all this nonsense to come into our nation and try to change it. So we have to first solve the civic literacy problem, get civically literate and biblically literate on these issues, and then we'll know how to wage war. Intellectually, of course, is what I mean.
Amen to that. All right, so go to fparmychapters.com. Mark, I'll give you a minute to wrap things up here.
Yeah, look, I think what John and Rick are both talking about is the idea of knowledge, of gaining knowledge, of having understanding. There's that old phrase that knowledge is power, and that's completely untrue. Knowledge without action is just knowledge. It's just inside your head. You have to know the facts. You have to understand Sharia. You have to understand your own history. You have to know what it means to be a biblical citizen. And then you have to be part of the FlashPoint Army, part of Patriot Academy, part of Convention of States. You have to put it into action. Training for the fight and not fighting doesn't do any good. We need you in the fight with all of us.
We sure do. Well said. Proverbs 21:30 and 31 says, no human wisdom or understanding or plan can stand against the Lord. The horse is prepared for the day of battle, but the victory belongs to the Lord. The horse is prepared for the day of battle. The victory belongs to the Lord. Listen, that's just what we're doing. Everyone, well, Gene, you've been kind of all negative. You know, it's time for us to put on our big boy pants and our big girl pants and realize what we're looking at right now. Now, that does not mean our faith is shaken in who we are as Christians. We just need to understand the battle we're in. So that's why we're bringing this to you. A lot of people I know say, Gene, we don't like how negative you are sometimes. Guess what? I'm just bringing you the truth. It doesn't shake our faith. It helps us understand our faith and the wisdom that comes from that. So thank you for being a part. Thank you, Mark Meckler. Thank you, Rick Green. Of course, thank you, John Guandolo and Brigitte Gabriel. Make sure you go on, get the book, Islam's Deception. You can find it there on the website or at the 800 number. You and I've got a little work to do. We're going to have to understand this is for the long haul. This isn't a short battle. Next Flashpoint, Hank Kuhneman, Matthew Faraci, Bill Koenig. We're going to talk about what happens tomorrow night when you stand against Israel. It's going to be very interesting. Your eyes are going to be open when you find out what really happens. Thank you for being a part. Listen, if you haven't, go sign up for River at the Ranch, our meeting coming up in October. It's a big deal. Be looking for an email about it soon. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Not all gold companies are the same. And when it comes to protecting my money, I choose Goldco. They've helped thousands of Americans protect over $3 billion of their savings with gold and silver. Take the first step and request their free gold and silver kit.
Visit fparmygold.com or call 844-644-GOLD to learn how to get up to 10% in free gold or silver.
God bless you, FlashPoint Army. Do you know how special you are? God is using you to shape this nation, to shift this nation. You are incredible. And I want to encourage you, don't just tune in, tell friends, make sure you're plugged in, all the social media channels, continue to give. Thank you for all that you do. History will tell that FlashPoint Army shaped this nation for the glory of God. God bless you. This is Tony Suarez, and I'll see you soon.
Hey, Texas. Join the FlashPoint Army on Friday, July 24th at 7 p.m. at New Beginnings Church in Bedford, Texas. Join Gene Bailey, Larry Huck, Lorenzo Sewell, Hank Kuhneman, Miles Rutherford, John Amonchukwu, Rick Green, Andrew and Nolene Cedra. Go to fprarmy.com/events to register for this free one-night event.
This is the FlashPoint Television Network.